Hello, everyone. Today we have on a very special guest, Dr. Carolyn Ward of the Blue Ridge Parkway Foundation. She is the director, and today she's here to tell us a little bit about the foundation and its mission. Dr. Ward, how are you today?
I'm doing very well. How are you doing today, Ethan?
I'm doing well. Thank you for asking. My first question is, what is the Blue Ridge Parkway Foundation, and what are its goals?
Yeah, so the Blue Ridge Parkway, as many of us that live in this part of the world know, is the most visited national park unit in the country. It has
Mm.
more visitors than Yellowstone, Yosemite, and the Grand Canyon combined, and yet it receives a fraction of the budget that any one of those other parks receives. And so, our role at the Blue Ridge Parkway Foundation is to try to help bridge that gap in funding between what it gets from federal sources and what it needs to actually continue the work that it has been traditionally doing. The Park Service budget for our park, most parks, has been flat for about 20 years. So they've received about the same amount of money. But if you think about cost of operation over the last 20 years, that's gone up a lot. And so it results in this increasing gap between what the park receives and what it actually needs to operate at the level we'd like to all see it operate.
Mm. And the Blue Ridge Parkway spans several states, and I live in Southwest Virginia in the Carroll County Galax area. And within Galax, there is the Blue Ridge Music Center. Does the Parkway Foundation do much work with helping out at events there? How does that work?
Yes, the Blue Ridge Music Center is one of the two sites that we actually operate on the Blue Ridge Parkway. So we operate the Bluffs Restaurant, and we
Okay.
also have been operating the music programming at the Blue Ridge Music Center since 2013. So
Okay.
we put on the summer concerts. We put on midday mountain music, so free
Mhm.
music 7 days a week at the facility. And we also run what we call milepost music concerts, like at Mayberry Mill or Bluffs Restaurant, Humpback Rocks, where we take the music on the road or on the parkway, and we do special sort of pop up concerts once a month at certain locations.
So you're the director of the foundation. What does your day-to-day role look like?
Well, we have multiple programs that we operate. So we operate the Blue Ridge Music Center programming. We operate Bluffs Restaurant. We also operate a program called Kids in Parks, which is in 18 states. We have about 350 Kids in Parks track trails across the country, trying to get children unplugged and outside for their health and the health of our public lands. And then we also operate a new program called Blue Ridge Rising, where we're getting the 29 counties that surround the parkway to think collectively as one thing. And so my day to day operation is not very predictable because of all the moving pieces. Sometimes I'm at the music center, sometimes I'm working with our Kids in Park staff and other team members. We also do a lot of fundraising activities, so fundraising events. We have the Denim Ball coming up in September. So I have not a very predictable schedule.
In terms of funding, you mentioned fundraising. Obviously, that's a very large part of your organization. What are some of your fundraising strategies? You mentioned the ball. Is it events? Do you rely on donations? I know that you have the license plate program, which I'm sure brings in a considerable amount of funding.
Yes, we have multiple ways that people can become part of our community of stewards. The license plate program is clearly one of our great flagships. We've had the North Carolina, I think we were the second specialty plate in the state of North Carolina.
Mm.
We now have a plate in the Commonwealth of Virginia that people can buy to help support the Blue Ridge Parkway. So that's one way. That's only about 10% of our revenue. We
Mm.
also have individual donations, and believe it or not, that is one of our primary ways of raising money. We have a lot of
Yeah.
people that love and care deeply about the Blue Ridge Parkway. Maybe it's one little spot that was important for them with their grandparents, or maybe it's the Parkway experience itself. We also have a lot of grants, so we write grants to fund specific projects and programs that are along the Parkway. We also have a lot of individuals that contribute through their own foundations, their own charitable giving ways. So we have lots of sources of bringing in support for the Parkway.
Sure, definitely. And in terms of that budget, obviously some of it goes to operating costs, but how much is able to be donated directly back to the park, say for restoration or for repair? I think I read recently that the foundation was working on repairing one of the restaurants or hotels along the Parkway,
Yeah,
the
so
building?
we for every dollar that is donated to the foundation in whatever manner it comes in, 80 cents of that dollar, so 80% of all
Mm,
donations that come in go to fund projects and programs along the parkway.
mhm.
Sometimes that percentage goes up or down if it's a particular kind of grant that's tied to a
Sure,
particular thing. But we really pride ourselves on the fact that most of the money that comes into our organization goes directly to benefit the park. Since our inception in 1997, we've contributed over $25 million to the Blue Ridge Parkway directly. That doesn't count money that we've leveraged from other matching sources.
sure, certainly. So 1997, that's when the foundation was formed. Why was it formed? Obviously, it's to sustain the park, but who were the original founders?
Yeah, so Dr. Hauk Medford, who was a dentist in Winston-Salem, had a place up on the Parkway, spent a lot of time there, became friends with Gary Everhart, who at that time was the superintendent of the Blue Ridge Parkway. And
Mm,
Gary and Hauk had lots of conversations about that gap in funding and what Gary thought the needs were, and that if he had additional sources of revenue, that it would help him take better care of the park. And so those two individuals really got together in the late 90s and talked about what it could look like and what it could do. And that's when the foundation was started.
mm. And does that relationship continue today? Do you have a working relationship with the current superintendent?
Have a great working relationship with the current superintendent. We work hand in glove with all the park staff and our foundation staff, knowing what needs to be done, how we can help leverage support for the park. Sometimes it's hiring a contractor and doing the work ourselves.
Mhm.
Sometimes it's giving money to the park service so that they can do the work. But we really take the lead from the Park Service on what the needs are, what the critical needs are. I mean, there's no lack of stuff that needs to be done.
Of course.
And
Yeah.
so we need help from them on guiding us about which ones are priorities, which ones really need to be done now, or if we don't get it done, it's not going to be able to happen.
And obviously, last year there was a lot of sustained damage to the parkway because of Hurricane Helene, the winter storms in February. How did that impact your operations?
Well, that had a pretty devastating impact. I'm in Western North Carolina.
Mm, yeah.
Um, we There are some sections of the parkway that lost 60-70% of canopy cover, so the trees were
Mhm,
just leveled. You all had a lot of ice damage that
mhm,
happened even after Helene. And so when you have existing need, trail work that has to be done, buildings that need to be fixed, and then you layer on top of it a catastrophic disaster like we had, then it shifts a lot of the priority and focus when the motor road itself, when the parkway itself falls off the side of the mountain. Fixing the little section of trail that might be there may not be a priority anymore. And so when you have events like that, it can shift what becomes number one and number two, and even down to number 10.
mhm.
And so that we did see some movement in what the park needed to focus on.
I was browsing your website over the past week just trying to find out more about the foundation, learning about it, and I saw that the foundation had an office in had three offices, but one in Galax. Where is that office located?
So that's at the Blue Ridge Music Center.
Okay, okay, that makes sense. Yeah.
Yeah, we have two staff that work out of there in the summer.
Does the foundation support the music museum that's in the music center as well?
We are working really closely with the park to think about maintenance for that. That exhibit's becoming a little dated, a little old,
Sure.
and as anything that moves or plays music, it needs
Mhm.
repair. So we've been working closely with the park to see what needs to be done, and then we try to raise money to try to fix that.
I reached out because I noticed you were a graduate of Whitfield Community College, and I recently graduated from Whitfield Community College. And then you went on and got a bachelor's degree at Emory and Henry, and then got your master's and PhD from Virginia Tech in forestry. What did your career path look like? How did you end up in the position you're in today?
Well, that's an interesting story and long, but I'll give you the crib note version.
Okay.
So I got my first job when I first sort of real job. when I was at Emory and Henry as a park interpreter at Hungry Mother State Park.
Mm, okay.
And it was connecting people to place, connecting people to the mountains, helping them create meaning and a relationship with the place that they were standing or living. And I saw the power in that. There is a tremendous amount. You don't take care of something you don't know anything about. And interpretation and education helps people become connected to a place because they learn more about it and they're more likely then to take care of it.
Yeah.
And so I found that to be tremendously fascinating and exceptionally rewarding. And then when I went on in my education to pursue higher degrees, I thought I could become a force multiplier. I could help other people learn how to be a park interpreter. And then that impact could be spread exponentially. And so for 15 years, I was a professor at a university teaching folks how to become park rangers and communicate all things nature and culture related to audiences to try to help bridge connection and create meaning. And then my daughter was 3 years old, and I was in California at the university running a very large research program, author of a book. I was a topped out full professor. I didn't have to work very hard anymore. And loved my job. But I had a birthday party for my daughter who was 3. We had our little 3-year-old friends over, and I had a couple activities, and one of which was going to be to sit on the ground. And I was like, okay, everybody sit down. And the kids looked at the grass, the parents looked at the kids, and the parents ran off to their cars to get blankets for the kids to sit on. And I thought, that's different. And then I had a thing where they were going to take their shoes off and put their feet in a little creek that literally had goldfish in it. It was not a big creek, it was a creek I had built. Uh,
Yeah.
and the kids looked at the parents, and the parents were like, it's okay, honey, you don't have to take your shoes off. And I got a little concerned. And I started doing a bunch of research and found out that kids between the ages of 4 and 14 are plugged into electronic devices for 8.6 hours a day. And they're outside in unstructured play for 4 to 7 minutes. And so I got very concerned that my idea of being a force multiplier and telling my students they could go change the world, if the next generation of kids coming up had no connection with parks and public lands, it would not matter how many interpreters I had trained because our parks and public lands can be undone with the stroke of a pen. And if we don't have that next generation of folks caring about public lands, we won't have them. So it was that day literally that I keep a jobs board for my students outside of my office, and a job came out of the printer to come to Asheville, North Carolina and work for the Blue Ridge Parkway Foundation and start a program called Healthy Kids, Healthy Parks, designed to get kids unplugged and outside. And I was like, I'm pretty
Yeah.
sure I got to go back. I got to take this job. This couldn't be better timing. I felt like it was a sign. And within 2 months, I was back in my home of the Blue Ridge starting Kids in Parks.
Yeah. Wonderful. Um, from there, how long did it take for you to go from that position, working with the kids, to the director position?
I came in 2008 to start Kids in Parks. And then in the end of 2010, I became the CEO.
Are there any larger projects that the foundation would like to work on in the coming years?
I think the biggest thing we're working on now is Blue Ridge Rising. And our other programs are still ongoing and they're doing wonderfully well. But Blue Ridge Rising, we've got about 16 million visitors that come to the Blue Ridge Parkway. And those visitors generate $1.7 billion in economic impact for our mountain towns. People that travel the Parkway have to get off the Parkway to get gas. They have to get off and go eat and find a hotel. And that money that supports our little mountain towns is pretty critical. And we
Yeah.
see that when Helene shut off access to certain locations. We know the impact of the Parkway. But those visitors that come, about 90% of them come for the views. They come for those sweeping, beautiful vistas that you can see when you drive the Parkway, but the Parkway doesn't own those views. The local communities do. And so Blue Ridge Rising is the first time in the Parkway's 90-year history to unify and link the 29 counties together to think of themselves as one region, one Blue Ridge Rising. And by doing that, we can become a very powerful voice and a very powerful support system for both our parks and our local communities.
And how would that work? Would a representative from each county be appointed to serve on a collective board? Would you get involved with the local board supervisors? Tell me about the
Mm-hmm.
logistics.
Yeah, so we actually spent a year and a half doing a planning process. We had 38 community meetings, at least one in every county. And then we had regional meetings. We asked the people in the communities, we had over 1,400 participants. We asked them, what do you
Wow.
want to see us do? What would make your Parkway relationship better? What would improve your community in terms of a relationship with the Parkway? We asked that question to all counties, all constituents, and we got 6 consistent themes that were named over and over and over. That created the Blue Ridge Rising Action Plan. One of the things that people said they wanted us to do was create what you just mentioned. We call it our Blue Ridge Rising ambassadors. So we have a representative from every county that sits on that ambassador group. They serve as the conduit of the voice back and forth. So we keep a pulse on what's going on in the community and what they want and how they want to see it implemented. And then we take that back to implement it. We've raised over $6 million in funding to make
Wow.
those things that were identified in Blue Ridge Rising a reality.
How was that ambassador chosen? Just part of the 1,400 that you had reached out to, or are they chosen by the local counties?
We put out a nomination so you could self nominate, someone else could nominate you. You could throw your own hat in the ring or get thrown into the ring. And then we had a board. We have an advisory board that went through all of those nominations and made selections for the ones that would represent the county for this year. We'll change it every year. That way, everybody has an opportunity to serve. And that's how they were. That's how they were chosen this time.
And if a guest is listening to this and they want to get involved with the Parkway, they want to help out maybe the foundation or the Parkway itself, how would you recommend that they do that?
The easiest thing to do is go to our website, brpfoundation.org. You'll see links to our other programs. You'll see links to Blue Ridge Rising, to Kids in Parks, to the Music Center, to Bluffs Restaurant, to just how we raise money in general. Everybody likes to plug in a different way. Some people like hiking and birding, and some people want to come and eat our country ham biscuit or
Yeah.
so, at Bluffs. And so it depends upon how you want to get engaged. We have opportunities for people to volunteer, to come out and work with us or work with the park. There's ways that you can do a little or a whole lot.
Certainly, yeah. And in terms of volunteering, would that be like trail work or forestry work or just kind of cleanup, or would that be more personnel, like a park attendant sort of thing?
It's a little bit of everything. So, for example, we will take volunteers that work with us through Midday Mountain Music or Milepost Music or at the Music
Hmm.
Center. But if you're interested in trail work or things like that, then what we can do is, depending upon where you're located, we can help connect you with one of the trail groups, Carolina Mountain Club,
Mm.
Piedmont Land Conservancy. There's lots of groups that are already out there, the ATC group. And so it just depends on where people are coming from and what it is they actually want to do. But we can often serve as sort of a clearinghouse, and then there's just signing up as a volunteer in park directly with the Park Service.
I have a couple more questions before we wrap it up. They're a little bit more personal. But if someone is listening to this and they want to enter into the nonprofit sphere, do work like you did, or maybe enter into the forestry agricultural industry, what advice would you give them?
Well, it depends on at what level you're asking that question. If
Mm.
you're a young person or a student, and this
Yeah,
is
someone my
something that
age.
is exciting for you, my biggest piece of advice, and I gave this when I was a professor, and I give it now: take communications classes. Take
Mm.
communications classes. Being able to speak to someone about what it is you're doing and why you're doing it and what you hope to get out of it, whether you are cruising timber as a Forest Service employee or you are running a multi-million dollar nonprofit or business, being able to articulate your message to someone in a way that they can hear and that they can feel connected to is probably one of the biggest skill sets you could ever achieve. And it is something that takes practice and
Mhm.
work, and there's a lot of great classes and a lot of great online things out there. But communication, I know a lot of people that want to go in natural resource management. They want to be in the woods and they want to work with plants and trees and they don't want to talk to people. But the fact is, if you're going to move up or you're going to have a greater impact, communication is really a pretty key skill set.
Definitely. And I noticed on your LinkedIn that you were a member of Rotary International. Can you talk a little bit about your role in that organization as well?
I am not a great Rotary member. I don't go to the meetings like I should. So if any of my fellow Rotarians are out there, I'll just say that right up front. I pay my dues, though. I am a
Mm,
member of Rotary because of what they have done in both my community
mhm.
and with polio in general. Like, I am from Withful, Virginia, which had one of the worst outbreaks of anywhere in the country. And, so I feel deeply about the work that Rotary has done nationally and internationally. I think it's a great cause. It's a great group of people that come together to try to just do good in their community.
So, yeah, we have a pretty active local Rotary group in Hillsville. And they do a lot of good work, and they have Interact, which is the high school component where high schoolers like myself can get involved, volunteer. We've done some stuff not on the Parkway, but Devil's Den Nature Reserve, which is right off the Parkway in Fancy Gap, and we've done some work there. So they do a lot of good stuff in our community.
Yes, they do. It's a good group of people.
Yeah. And then my last question, it's maybe a little bit of a cliche. What does it mean to you to be an advocate for the greater Parkway Foundation and for nature?
Yeah, I have to say, I have not felt more honored or privileged to be able to do what I do than just about any other job I've ever had.
Mhm.
I know what it meant like when I was a kid for my dad to take me walking the ridges of our family farm in Max Meadows and teaching me about the plants and the animals, and what that level of connectivity did for me, and the level of the sense of place that I had after that, and the sense of belonging. And for me to be able to connect people to this place so that maybe one day my great great grandchildren can still walk on those trails, and that it's not damaged and that it still
Yeah.
exists and it's still
Yes.
protected, I think is one of the most, I could not be more honored to be able to do this job. You can't reach everybody, you can't
Mhm.
change everybody's opinion or make them feel that there's worth and value in nature and cultural history, but you don't have to reach everybody. You just have to reach enough.
Mhm. Certainly. Well, thank you, Dr. Ward. I greatly appreciate the work that you do. I live very close to the Parkway, just about a mile down the road, and it means a lot to me and my family. So I'm very thankful for everything that you and your foundation do, and thank you for taking the time with me today.
Thank you, Ethan. Thank you for what you're doing.